think with Sheridan, her message is so powerful.
Yeah.
I know both of us were reeling when she said it's only 20% of women who do resistance train.
It's literally shook me to my core. I'm like, what? Because I think mainly because it feels like we've come so far. And the worlds that we're in, it seems like everyone is resistance training, or at least knows they should be.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, they're very close to it and aware. But that's just not the majority of the world, clearly.
Yeah. The first thing she said about how, 80% of women don't train, not the first thing she said, but early on in the conversation, that 80% of women don't strength train. And then the last thing that she said about what our children do, they don't do what we tell them to do, they do what they see.
Yes.
It just made me thinking a lot about what are the barriers that my daughter may face getting into this type of world of training.
Yep.
And also as I reflected, and it's actually something that Sheridan's spoken about previously, but this idea that menopause or pre and postnatal are almost like specialities.
Yeah.
Like they're not, they're phases of a woman's life. And, a lot of our clients out there are female, and, we're not there to support them in just a portion of their life where they don't have these things going on. If we want them to train through their entire lives, then these things can't be viewed as niches almost, but as the norm.
Yeah. I think even in preparation for this episode, it just kind of stuck with me. I was like, oh, Sheridan left nursing. And I don't mean to put words in her mouth. This might not be true for her, but it feels like she left nursing because she realized there was a single prescription that could sort of do so much of the heavy lifting across every single life phase.
Pun intended.
But yeah, and strength training was it. So it doesn't matter if you are 16 years old trying to just be healthy and have a good life and fun and whatever else, or you are 85 years old. It fits in every single phase and is going to make your quality of life significantly better the whole way through.
Yeah, and I'm just really impressed with how thoroughly she approaches, making sure that the information that women are receiving is appropriate and accurate, and does a really good job of pointing out when the information that's coming through might be skewed in some way. It's a really difficult job to take that research, take that information, and then, filter it and communicate it to a wider audience.
Yeah.
What stood out for you?
Yeah, well, she said, when you get a problem right, but a solution wrong, your solution either becomes harmful or not helpful at all.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I walked away from that with this deeper level of conviction that as a coach, we have a responsibility to really be tuned into the facts. Now, there's a lot out there. I'm not saying you can never get it wrong. Just make sure you own it when you do. But if you're going to put something out there as fact and you're going to hold it with a strong fist, then you need to be willing to put in a little bit more work and make sure that information is accurate.
I feel like that from the listener as well, or for the person that's consuming the content.
Yeah.
Not just the educator, but
That's
for the person
true.
that's, make sure that you pay attention to who you're learning from and see if their message, as she said, communicates nuance and context. And, they say things like it depends and sometimes to give you the details. Be wary of absolutes and generalisms.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip to just, if someone only speaks in black and white, be sure that you are looking for them to provide nuance here and there. But we also live in a clickbaity world where that stuff, there's no room for it on the internet. That stuff doesn't get rewarded on the internet.
Yeah. We desire certainty.
Yeah.
We want simple because it makes it easy. But, you're not simple people. We're not. We're complex. We're nuanced. There's context.
100%.
And, as much as you may crave a simple answer or certainty, when it comes to your health and fitness, it's unlikely that you're going to get it in 30-second reels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's problem number one. It's don't seek your medical advice on the internet. I think there's better routes.
I mean, there's you might get good information, but it's something to look into.
Yeah. Hold it loosely. Be a little bit wary. Make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Okay, so we talked about cycle syncing, and I love how she was just like, no, you don't need to be doing that. But that piece of the conversation made me realize, how did she say it? She said, you don't need permission to know that you feel like shit. And I think a lot of people feel like they do. I think in this wearable era where this thing is telling us what's going on with our body, and all of us are disconnected from our hunger cues and all sorts of things, I feel like so many of us, males and females, have become completely disassociated from actually listening to our body, actually feeling what our body needs. And I want to empower people to make it a practice, because it is a practice, to tune into what your body is telling you, because our bodies hold so much wisdom, not just about our health, but in so many ways. And I think we want to operate very from our brains, very head forward. And sometimes we actually need to go inward and feel. And there's a lot that our bodies can tell us.
Well, it's that pursuit of certainty again. We want everything to fit into a neat box.
Yeah.
I think the wearables, the biometric data is an interesting one, because yes, we don't want to be ruled by, today it's telling me you've got a low score, therefore, you can't train. But I've actually seen a great deal of success and benefit from people having some objective data to sort of remove some of that overthinking and narrative. I think the important thing is it's a data point.
Yes.
It's not a decision. So separating the information that you're being provided from the decision that you're making, there's not a direct influence. It's something to consider. It's a data point.
Yeah.
If your sleep score is low, but you feel good, there's 2 data points for you to work off. And, the fact that you feel good, might offset it, but it might just mean that tomorrow, because you've had a couple bad nights in a row and you did still train, you are likely to feel it a little bit more than what you would. And also something else that's worked well is think of your data as, it's a bit like stocks, like follow the trend.
Yes,
try not to get pulled by the spikes daily or hourly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also say I'm a huge fan of Whoop bands specifically, I think, because they frame things through this lens of recovery. And I work with a lot of high performers who are disconnected from their body. And I was that human who for so long would just power through. I needed the slap in the face that was a low recovery score to stop me, and I didn't have it. And actually, one of the most pivotal moments in my journey of burnout was going to see a specialist, and he actually took my HRV. And he was like, "Are you stressed?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "You sure?" I'm like, "I always feel like this."
There's a difference between not being stressed and tolerating stress.
Yes. Yeah. So I think for the high performer whose brain can overpower their body, this is incredibly powerful to just throw up a caution flag or a full-on red flag to be like, you need to slow down and you need to prioritize your recovery, or you're going to end up burnt out or injured or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I mean, people will push through things for whatever's most important to them. And if you are someone where your work is important to you, you will be willing to, in some degree, sacrifice your health or your sleep. I think where it gets dangerous is when people begin to tell themselves the story that it's not having an impact.
Yes.
And having that objective data, I've literally seen a lawyer go from 1 week bragging about an 80-hour work week to me to the next week talking about how many greens they got in a row or how many, yellows they got in a row. So, that objective data does have an immediate impact in raising people's awareness, but it's information.
Yes.
It's not a direct correlation to your action. Just keep that in mind. And then in my eyes, the information is beneficial.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Was there anything else from Sheridan's episode that really stuck with you?
There was a lot of new information for
So
me.
much.
Yeah. I was unaware of how common things like endometriosis, PMOS are.
Yeah.
And despite my wife, having endo and adenomyosis and seeing her go through the pain associated with that each month and how that impacts her training, I didn't realize how common it was for women to be dealing with it, and just the impact that it can have on life in general, but training specifically, and the inverse relationship of how training works and the mechanisms of how it impacts some of these conditions. Thought that was interesting to become better aware of.
I also loved that she just very simply was like, as a coach, you need to be asking that, like straight from the straight at the beginning when you're working with someone. You need to understand where their cycle is at. And if you're not working with a coach, like you need to really recognize the impact that this is having on your fitness, but also on your health and on your future if you do want to have children. Like, don't wait until it's a problem to get help on these things.
I think one of our key values, with One Coach is, you train the person, not just the exercise or the movement. Yep. And I think that episode did a lot and will, for a lot of people, help us better understand, the female person and the female client.
You got woman-splained.
I did. I did.
Full education.
Very beneficial.
We always do a takeaway on these. And this one, I think for me, it's really simple. So if only 20% of women are strength training, I think it's our responsibility, male, female, it doesn't matter your age, to encourage the women in our life to strength train in some capacity. So how can we each find 3 friends, your mom, your auntie, your grandma, your cousin, and support them on their journey, whether that's just having a conversation, helping them understand the benefits, asking them what information they need, sending them this episode. Like, how can we support the women to grow that number from 20 to 30 to 40% of the population?
Yeah, and when people do start to try something, making sure that we're not accidentally falling into using language or labels that might cause them to reconsider it.
Yeah.
I got home the other day and I said to my little girl, I started calling her like princess. And then I had like this moment where I thought, I need to be conscious of of how I'm, talking to her to make sure that I don't create these connotations of, what girls do or do not do.
Yes. And I mean, that's a whole different can of worms, but I do think that's a matter of speaking more freely in all areas, right? Like you can still call her princess. You can also like call her strong and powerful and
100%.
Whatever else.
It's something I don't want to do without having thought about it.
Yeah, I love that.
It just kind of checked me and so I thought, I can see just how easily I could create a mold for her to live up to and fit into. Yeah.
Yes. And the world is already doing that. So break the mold for her. That's beautiful. I love that.
Really useful episode. Really, I think Sheridan's a fantastic educator and does a great job of making these things clearer.
Yep. Absolutely. I learned a lot. I will be thinking on that episode for a while.